Hi everyone, welcome to the City of Hudson Oaks Virtual Town Hall. I'm your Mayor, Mark Pavero, and tonight we're going to discuss quite a few things that should interest you as a citizen, resident of Hudson Oaks, or just someone who likes to venture into the city to shop or to eat at our restaurants. What we're going to be talking about tonight are community policing. We have our police chief here, Mike Baldwin. We have our community survey that was taken back in August and September. We have the results of that. We may be discussing that extensively tonight. And also some economic development things that have been going on in the city of Hudson Oaks that would interest you. And then finally, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So if you're online watching us, feel free to submit any questions that you have, and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you tonight. So first of all, I want to introduce our police chief, Chief Mike Baldwin. He comes from the city of Fort Worth. Mike, welcome to the town hall. You were my captain when I was a young officer in the West Division at Fort Worth, and you were always a guy who was ready to answer calls for service, even though you didn't have to. That wasn't your job, but that was the kind of guy that you were at Fort Worth, and we were so proud to bring you on here in Hudson Oaks back in 2016. So if you would, just give us a little rundown of the Hudson Oaks Police Department, maybe some things about Hudson Oaks PD that people may not know about, structure, community policing.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, Hudson Oaks Police Department has 11 authorized positions, one of those positions being mine. We have 10 officers. Basically, everybody in the police department actually does patrol, including myself. And we do have one civilian that is our evidence tech and administrative assistant. So for community policing, I'm going to give you a very long, drawn out.
We only have an hour, Chief.
Okay. Definition from the Department of Justice, and that is community policing is a philosophy that promotes organizational strategies that support to the systematic use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques to proactively address the immediate conditions that give rise to public safety issues, such as crime, social disorder, and fear of crime. In Hudson Oaks, we are very blessed to have an environment of very low crime rate, very few social issues, with strong community cohesiveness, and a higher standard of living. While some cities rely on citizens on patrol and neighborhood police officers as their community policing strategies, Hudson Oaks has taken a different path. Every police officer in Hudson Oaks is a community police officer. Our officers do daily patrols. They do business checks. We try to drive the residential streets at least twice a shift. And we do a very visible presence in our central business district. Yet our strongest community policing tool is our residents. We ask that you get to know your neighbor, because neighbors watching over neighbors is what is the best crime deterrence possible. Share information when you're out of town, or know what vehicles belong at a location and when they should be there. Anytime you feel something's amiss, please call us and we will respond. We are always available to our citizens and visitors to ask that you reach out at any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Just a few questions that I've received as mayor about policing in Hudson Oaks. A lot of questions I get are about traffic and the increased amount of traffic because of HEB, Walmart. Now we have a multifamily that's going in right by the water park. Can you just tell us, have we had an increase in traffic-related incidents, accidents, things like that since these businesses have come on board?
I do not believe that they're actually directly related to the businesses. We've been working a lot more accidents, but Hudson Oaks traditionally has worked a lot of accidents because of 180 and the freeway. So I don't think those have actually added anything. We're not seeing anything out of the multifamily because it's on the service road. But we have been working more accidents, and I can't attribute that actually to the businesses. However, 85 to 90,000 vehicles go through our city every day. So unfortunately, we're bound to work accidents.
Right. We have the busiest intersection in Parker County right there where Fort Worth Highway, Hudson Oaks Drive, and 20 intersect. So that is the busiest intersection in Parker County. Just one question for you regarding the multifamily. This is the first multifamily in the city of Hudson Oaks. What have you done and your officers done as far as working with that multifamily to make sure that we respond in a atypical way that we haven't in the past?
Well, we actually patrol it several times a day, and every officer's been taken through the structure, both through apartments and through the breezeways, because this is a new concept. This is an old concept in Fort Worth, but in Parker County, this is a very new concept because we're closed off breezeways. So we have taken everybody through, including the fire department, so they understand the dynamics of these breezeways. If you have an active shooter or something in the breezeways, how to handle that. So the staff there are very willing to work with us. Obviously, the owner and the overall management's been very willing to work with us. And as new buildings open up, we'll spend more time in those.
And this is nothing new to you, coming from Fort Worth and having a lot of multifamily under your purview. This is something that you were used to before you came here, and so it's no surprise that you've worked in your officers in a way that works closely with that management. So, well, thank you, Chief. We do have an opportunity for you to ask questions for the Chief later on in the show. But right now, what I'd like to do is bring on our City Administrator, Sterling Nairn, and we're going to talk about our community survey, some economic development issues. And so, Sterling, welcome. Sterling, you've been with us how long now?
Oh, I started back in March. I'm a COVID. Yeah, the week before COVID. What an introduction, right?
Right. And you'll have a chance to ask Sterling some questions as well afterwards. But tell us about this community survey. We put it out to the residents. It was answered by about 275 people actually took the survey. And what kind of things in the survey did you see that interested you?
So the survey was part of the strategic planning process. So as a city, as we started a strategic process, we wanted to look out about 2 years ahead on what projects we can get done and in those timeframes. But we wanted to get feedback from the community to what that may look like. So the thought was to send out a community survey, which was a great response rate. So we appreciate you guys responding to that. And we use that as part of the strategic planning process. We went through that with the council as what the results were of that, and ultimately came out with the strategic plan.
Yeah, so the strategic plan that Sterling is referencing is actually a plan that council spent a Saturday workshop going through, and that is brand new to us. We just saw it 2 days ago. It'll be presented to council at the November meeting, where we'll be discussing it and then approving that strategic plan. That basically tells the city council where we want to go and how we want to get there. And just let me touch on some things from the survey. It's real interesting. When the citizens filled out the survey, they had some strengths that they saw in the city of Hudson Oaks. And the top three were, number one, economic development. What they see is the city being very aggressive in economic development because we are a property tax-free city. So we're reliant on sales tax to provide services to our citizens and businesses. And so that was a strength that our citizens saw, the people who took the survey saw, was our aggressiveness in economic development. The low crime and public safety aspect of the city, our emergency services. So our police department is the Hudson Oaks Police Department. We also have Emergency Services District 3, which is the county fire department, and they provide fire service in conjunction with the city of Weatherford. And so everyone who took the survey had a very positive view of our emergency services and police department. And the third thing that they said was a strength about Hudson Oaks was obviously being property tax free. So those were some strengths that the citizens said that they saw in the city of Hudson Oaks. And let's just talk about, in full transparency, let's talk about some weaknesses that the people who took the survey saw. And infrastructure, drainage, and roads. And I'll have Sterling comment on that because we have been doing some repaving in some of our neighborhoods. But Sterling, can you give us an update on maybe some paving?
Correct. So if you've driven down Lakeshore in probably the past 2 months, you saw an overlay project on that that was completed. We had kind of held off a little bit on that with all the COVID issues and ensuring that our sales tax and our economics of the area were going to withstand that. So it has, and we've completed that project. One of our initiatives this year is going to be to create a street infrastructure plan. And what that will do, we'll lay out basically all the streets in the city. We'll kind of grade those. on a scale, and that will be the gauge of how we spend those street dollars going forward. And the idea is to create a plan and a document that you'll be able to see on the website, and it'll lay out the streets and it'll actually prioritize those streets, so that at some point in time, if you live on a certain street, you can go to that website and see, hey, my street is slated to be repaired in 2022 or 2023 or whatever that may be. So we're working towards that. We'll have that implemented here within the next few months, and we'll start working that and get that full transparency out there, so you'll know kind of what the future holds for our streets.
Great. Another thing that the folks said was a weakness about Hudson Oaks, and I don't think they really meant it as a weakness, but maybe a concern that they have, was residential uses. And I think probably what most people are talking about there is the multifamily project that we have right there by the water park on I-20, the Creekside at Hudson Oaks. And the Creekside at Hudson Oaks is the first multifamily that Hudson Oaks has approved. And when this was undertaken several years ago, we did put a lot of stringent requirements on the builder. And we actually had about 6 organizations that wanted to bring in a multifamily. When we put the stringent requirements on it, only one actually took the project on. And so, Sterling, tell us about some of the things that are required in Creekside. I know we have to have granite countertops and things like that. Flooring has to be upgraded. But what else? I mean, there's it's a planned development, so there's a commercial aspect to it. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have not been by Creekside, please go by there, and I'm sure they're happy to give you a tour. You walk into the clubhouse, which is the far back building that you come into, and it's magnificent. A lot of the requirements are, if you look at the facade, just the outside building of the structure, 100% masonry. If you go through the inside, granite countertops, as the mayor pointed out, stainless steel appliances, but please go through there and take a look. I'm sure they're happy to show you around and maybe take you through an apartment, but it is first class. It is very nice. As a opponent of that, multifamily, if you've driven by there, you see kind of a void kind of along the road there, and that will be retail. So they are actively, now that they've kind of started winding down the residential portion of that, they're going to start building the retail portion of that. Which will be a great amenity. It'll match the facade of the existing multifamily units, and will be a great asset for the city. I think what will happen is you'll see a lot of people starting to move into those and the success of those. And I think what is a weakness and maybe a little bit of a fear of the unknown, as the mayor pointed out, that it is the first one, will turn into a strength of the city.
Yeah, I agree. I can understand how it's concerning to folks that have lived in Hudson Oaks for several decades, but we're doing it in a smart way. We understand that we do have to have a population, a daytime population, and that could actually go to our restaurants and businesses to keep that sales tax revenue going, so we don't have to levy that ad valorem property tax. So. Before we get into economic development, I do want to mention that this is not the Hudson Oaks City Hall that we're in. We are in the beautiful new headquarters of Superior Livestock, and this is their studio. And we just want to say thank you to Superior Livestock for allowing us to come in and kind of invade their space today. But I tell you what, it's been a great relationship ever since Superior moved in. We love them, they love us. It's kind of crazy like that. So, but just thank you to Superior Livestock, and I kind of wanted to use that to transition into our economic development portion. We have Superior Livestock here now. This is a corporate headquarters that moved from Fort Worth to Hudson Oaks. And we also have a company called NextLink, which is a internet company, a fiber internet company that moved here to Hudson Oaks and moved their headquarters here. And Sterling, tell us about the new project over at NextLink with their office building.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Superior here, it is a beautiful building. I encourage you, if you stop by, I'm sure they're happy to show you it as well, but it is beautiful. But NextLink is right next door. What that is an internet company that actually was a fantastic partnership with the city. What happened was the city put all the infrastructure in for the fiber, and the NextLink basically rents that space or rents that fiber from the city to provide you all, the residents, with the high-speed internet that you have. So you've probably seen their main business that's been there for a couple years now, but you see a big building going up next to it, right? Well, that's going to be there more offices for them. So as they've started their business, they have grown tremendously. I think when they came into Hudson Oaks, they had about 40 employees. They will be over 500 towards the end of next year, which is a phenomenal growth, and they need that space, so they're building what is that office building next to it. But great partnerships with the city, not only with the fiber internet, but their sponsorships of some of the events that we do throughout the city. So we're excited to have them.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have them. We're thrilled to have Superior Livestock. NextLink is going around the nation now. They're starting to expand into different states. And, a city the size of Hudson Oaks will probably be about 2,500 people at this next census. But a city of 2,500 people would love to just be in the conversation to get a corporate headquarters to move to that city. And we've actually landed 2. So that says a lot about the professional staff that we have here at Hudson Oaks. And that's one thing that we have just concentrated on, is bringing in a professional staff that can go out and aggressively do economic development and actually have conversations with corporations that have moved to Hudson Oaks. I mean, that's because we do have that professional staff here in Hudson Oaks. So let's move on to economic development. There's a lot of stuff going on here in Hudson Oaks. I remember last year, last May, HEB opened up and Hudson Oaks went on the map. I think everybody in the state of Texas who loves HEB knew that Hudson Oaks existed on May 10th, 2019 when HEB opened. But there's been some other developments as far as economic growth in Hudson Oaks. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So HEB, a huge win for the city and the residents, not only of Hudson Oaks, but the surrounding community. So that's been a great land. And like I said, it has put Hudson Oaks on the map. I think a lot of people are saying, HEB's going where? But the branding of Hudson Oaks and the name of Hudson Oaks is starting to get out there. But aside from those 3 players, Urban Air has opened up, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the businesses that are currently going. Urban Air opened up, doing a great job over there with Sean and what they have going on. If you have not been in there, it's the tremendous facility over off of 180. And then you have the Pathfinder Brewery, and inside a new restaurant, The Grove, has started in there. They're open on Thursdays through Sundays. Pathfinder is the brewery that's inside that, so they're actually open at the same time on Thursdays, Sundays. So a great partnership between them two. And they've kind of get kick-started and started brewing, and their business is starting to kick off and go well as well. You mentioned Creekside. Creekside, they actually have residents living in Creekside now. So
they're ahead of schedule.
They are ahead of schedule. Yeah. So anytime you open up a residential multifamily place like that, you got a game plan, right? That you need to have. You're setting those goals, and they are ahead of those goals of people actually moving in and renting space within those. So you see 2 buildings that are actually open and occupied. The third one's probably going to come on in the next week or so, and then the other ones will start to follow suit on that as well. So that's a beautiful facility over there. If you haven't heard Mama's Pizza's come in. The old Paleo's space, Mama's Pizza come in. And I think this community as a whole has supported them wholeheartedly. I saw a Facebook post with them where they set a 52-year record. Yeah. They've been in business for 52 years, a staple in Fort Worth. They come to Hudson Oaks and literally have to shut their phones off because they can't fulfill the orders.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you're not as old as I am, Sterling, but back in the day when you called a radio station, you'd have to keep hanging up and dialing again because you get a busy signal, and all you wanted to do is request a song. Well, a few weeks ago, all I wanted to do was buy a pizza, and I felt like I was dialing that radio station again because I had to hang up, call back, hang up, call back, because they were just that busy. But I was happy to do it because I knew that Mama's Pizza was just going bonkers over there. And so everybody, they made some changes because they knew that they had to make some changes with the way they were taking orders. And so they're trying to accommodate everybody. But I don't know, maybe they've gotten things worked out, but I don't know. That's some pretty darn good pizza, and they're doing pretty well.
It is good, and they are doing well. So if you haven't tried them out, go try them out. They're a welcome addition to the community. And as you drive around town, you probably see some construction going on, maybe some dirt moving somewhere. So I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on those as to what's going on there. So if you're along 20 over there near Creekside, you've probably seen a big retaining wall go up and some dirt work going on there. That is going to be a home zone. So Home Zone is a furniture store. They're going to relocate to Hudson Oaks. If you're familiar with them now, they're kind of in the shopping center over in Weatherford with Lowe's and Best Buy. They're kind of tucked in the corner, but they needed more space. So they're going to build a standalone facility up there along 20. So you'll start seeing that structure go up soon. You've probably seen a structure going over there towards the new Urban Air and Blue Jasmine and those folks. That's an addition, basically the phase 3 of that retail development. That is coming along well. The developers out of that, and now the tenants are in there doing their tenant finish out. So R&K will be going into there. If you're familiar with the old R&K building, they'll be vacating that building and moving over into that new space.
That's going to be bittersweet, because when you walk into that original R&K, it's what you think of when you think of R&K, is that original building right there on Fort Worth Highway. So it's going to be bittersweet for them to be in a new location. But we're happy that they're staying in Hudson Oaks.
Yes, absolutely. But it'll be great for them too, right? A fresh start and maybe some a good thing for them. So also attending them, if you haven't heard, I mean, you probably have, because it's out there. Nothing Bundt Cakes is coming into that, so that'll be a welcome addition. So you can kind of go get your R&K. And then you can go get your sweets right after at Nothing Bundt Cakes. And then finally, or a third store in there, it's Orange Theory. So if you feel like you got to work out after that, you got Orange Theory right there in the same
Go to
space.
Nothing Bundt Cakes, and then right next door to Orange Theory to try to work off. You probably have to work out all day to kill off the calories from Nothing Bundt Cakes. They're so good.
But they're worth it.
They're definitely worth it. Yeah.
Also in there, a place called the Resale Boutique, which is one further going to relocate out here, that they need a bigger space, but it's kind of a designer resale boutique. And then a nail salon is going in there as well. You'll probably see in the future behind that is slated to be another retail. That's the same developer on that. So as he starts to finish out this, I'm sure he'll get to work on that piece there. So another place, AutoZone has submitted to come in. So you probably haven't seen a whole lot of dirt movement, but you will be in the next month or so. But that is slated to go in between the current Golden Chick and Schrick's Liquor. You kind of see that space there. That's actually going to be 2 lots, but they're going to take the one closest to Schrick's over there and develop that as an AutoZone place there. And then finally, if you haven't heard too, in Dave's Stove Shop, it was the old Manny's, is now Hooker's Grill.
Hooker's Burgers.
Yeah, so they're coming from the stockyard. If you haven't been in the stockyards, they're great. We went and had lunch there on the day that they opened, and I had never had one. I'll be back. It's an onion burger, different style, so it's a different kind of style than Big Burger. But I think those two will complement themselves very well.
Well, okay, everybody, put your ears over your kids' ears or put your hands over your kids' ears, because I like the naked hooker because I'm kind of on the keto diet, and that is something that doesn't have any bread. But anyway, it's delicious.
Yeah.
So, Hooker's Burgers, we're proud to have them. They're in Dave's Stove Shop, and they're doing very well also.
Yeah, so she's had a great start. She's out there. Ruth Hooker is her name, that runs that place, and she's extremely happy to be in there and doing well. So we're excited to have her. Finally, kind of what we just kind of got kind of worked out here, Lisa, is a coordination between the City of Hudson Oaks and Emergency Services District 3, which the mayor pointed out. ESD 3 does all the fire protection services for Hudson Oaks. They are going to build a new fire station across the street from the City Hall. So currently they occupy half of our public safety building. So Chief Baldwin and his officers are in a public safety off of Oak Ridge. And the ASD is taking up half of that space, and then Chief Baldwin and his guys take up the other half. They're going to be moving out of that into a brand new, very nice, very well done new fire station right across from City Hall, right across from Gene Willis Park, which would be a welcome addition. We're excited to have them.
Yeah, that fire station right across from City Hall is going to be beautiful. Congratulations to Board President Ed Huddleston and the Board of Commissioners with ESD3. They've done a fabulous job of designing this fire station, and it's going to be really a jewel of the City of Hudson Oaks. It's going to be gorgeous. So we're just so happy that they're going to build that right across from City Hall. Before we move on to the water line update, we are connecting with the City of Fort Worth for water. I want you to just touch on some sales tax numbers. Can you give us an update on how we're doing sales tax wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So sales tax, being a city without a property tax, we rely solely on sales tax to provide the services that we provide, the streets and the police services and all the amenities that come with being a Hudson Oaks resident. like the mayor pointed out, I came in, I think the week prior to me starting, COVID hits, and talk about a scary deal for any city administrator. Right. Almost as scary as the mayor said, telling kids to cover their ears, right? Coming in, it was concerning with what the economy was going to do with COVID and all the orders coming down from the governor as to occupancy loads and how much that would affect businesses. We haven't seen it in Hudson Oaks, and I think that pays dividends to the forward thinking of this current leadership, the past leadership, the administration of this city that they've had, this professional staff that Mark had mentioned earlier, and really diversifying that tax base. And issues like COVID, when they come up, while some cities, I mean, there's cities in North Texas that were struggling. I mean, they were being hit millions and millions of dollars because they weren't as diverse as what Hudson Oaks is. So when Hudson Oaks, when I started here, it was very concerning for me. Watching a couple of months, we actually held off a few projects, as I mentioned, the street project, kind of see what those done. But the numbers have actually trended up for Hudson Oaks overall, and really Parker County, you saw a little bit of dip there, but then everything kind of picked up and go. So when you look at Parker County as a whole, if you just look at the year over year over last year, they're about 8% up on sales tax. And then when you look at just the past month, they were up 13%. So very good as Parker County as a whole. And then when you look at just Hudson Oaks, last month we were up 9%. Month over month, and then over the year, currently we sit about 19% year over year sales tax. So, the economy, while COVID is what it is, I think the people of Parker County and Hudson Oaks have responded with supporting our local businesses. We appreciate that. I know that our businesses appreciate that. We've tried to implement some things like branch out takeout.
Exactly.
To try to encourage some shop local and get that out there. So sales tax numbers over the state, if you look at it statewide, are actually down. So you'll see some issues from a state legislation budgeting standpoint, but here locally, again, just building a diverse business base and diverse sales tax has paid dividends in times like this.
How much money did we make off of toilet paper? I'm sure it was a lot. So the branch out takeout program was something that our city staff, Sterling and our city staff came up with. And what we offered was for our citizens, if they lived in the city of Hudson Oaks, they could go to one of our local restaurants, purchase some food, and actually they would contact the city and we would send them a $20 voucher to take to another Hudson Oaks restaurant, and that would come out of the City of Hudson Oaks general fund. So we actually wanted to give back to our businesses just to let them know that we're there with them, and our citizens really responded, and you've kept our businesses open, and so we're kind of seeing that we're kind of on an upward trend right now. So the sales tax is bouncing back, and so we're very, very happy for that. Let's move into the Fort Worth water line. As most of you folks probably already know, or maybe you don't, we recently got into an agreement with the City of Fort Worth and the City of Willow Park to bring Fort Worth water to both Willow Park and Hudson Oaks. So basically what we've done as a city is we've solidified our water issue for a generation, I think. Sterling, we can build out the city of Hudson Oaks, and we are not going to have a water issue because of our connection to Fort Worth. Isn't that accurate?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. So currently we have wells that supply our water system, and as you're aware, wells can only produce so much water, which kind of hinders your development, right? You can't develop outside of what you can service from a city standpoint. We do currently have an agreement with Weatherford that we can supplement some of our wells with Weatherford, but this water line is a game changer for the city of Hudson Oaks and its residents and its business community, because as the mayor pointed out, you'll be able to develop the city in the way that you see fit, and your water issues will be non-existent. So we're excited about this project. It will be a huge project, a great project for not only Hudson Oaks, but Willow Park as well. So as the mayor pointed out, this is a joint effort between the city of Hudson Oaks, Willow Park, and Fort Worth to make this happen. So that water line, we are slated to be online at the end of 2021, fourth quarter of 2021. We're working through just some design now. So what you'll see on that project is we've bid that in 3 phases. And we've done that so that potentially 2 contractors could be working at the same time and try to get that water. Willow Park is in desperate need of that as well. So we've tried to make it as quick as possible so that Willow Park can get serviced off of that water line, and Hudson Oaks as well. So it's going to be 3 phases. There's 1 phase is going to be, and all this is going to happen right along 20. You'll see a water line that connects to the city of Fort Worth that will run along I-20 into Willow Park. That will be phase 1, so we call that the Fort Worth to Willow Park connection. You have phase 2, which is the Willow Park from Hudson Oaks connection. And what you'll see there is a water line that will run along 20. And then you have Mallory, which is on the street on the south side, kind of where Next Link is. That water is going to run on the north side, but right about Mallory, we will actually bore underneath I-20 and then lay that water line, which will tie into our water line, and that will be our connection point. And then we'll use our existing infrastructure to get that water up to our main tower, which is off of Oak Ridge there, over there by our public safety building. And then the third portion of that is the actual tank and the pumps that will be in Willow Park. So we bid those again in 3 phases so that we could potentially have some overlap on those projects, and we can be doing 2 things at once and streamlining that, again, hopefully being online if everything works out well at the end of 2021. That will supply the city with enough water to develop out. We will not utilize Weatherford. We'll still have that connection in case of an emergency. If that Fort Worth water line were to go down, we could still use some of that water from Weatherford to get us through that repair, whatever it may be. So we're excited about that partnership. It's been a great deal for Hudson Oaks and Willow Park. That was all done by a loan by the Texas Water Development Board, and that is a extremely less than 1% interest rate loan, incredibly low.
Yeah.
So we were excited for that and very blessed to be awarded that. And again, the partnership with Willow Park has been phenomenal on working on this project, and we're excited to get that thing going. But again, it's going to supply. We'll transition from a city that supplies its water from wells, supplemented by Weatherford water, that we will be supplied by Fort Worth, supplemented by our wells if need be.
Yeah, and I can't say enough about the city of Willow Park, Doyle Moss, his council, Brian Grimes, their city administrator, Betsy Price, the city of Fort Worth City Council. It was just incredible, the collaboration between the 3 cities. And so we're very thankful that was done. And I'll put you on the spot. When can I start getting Fort Worth water out of my sink?
4th quarter of 2021. So I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you December because my 4th quarter kind of runs over, but probably December you can turn that faucet on and be getting Fort Worth. So,
yeah.
And you didn't mention the collaboration with Willow Park and Fort Worth, but the Dean and Boswell Ranch have worked well with us in getting some easements that will go across their property. They own a large portion of that property and has worked well with us and making sure that those easements happen to make this thing go.
Yeah, there's a transition throughout Texas, and especially North Texas in our region, moving from groundwater to surface water. I mean, that has to happen because we cannot sustain so many straws in the ground. Eventually that water is just going to run out, and so we have solidified our water issues for just the foreseeable future. So we're just very, very proud of that collaboration with Willow Park and Fort Worth. So. Anything else on economic development before we move into Q&A?
No, I think we've kind of covered everything, but like you said, the Q&A is coming up, so if you have questions or if you've driven around town, you've seen something, or you want me to expand on what's going on, then please type in your questions and we'll try to get those answered here.
Yeah, so we have Brittany Huff, who is our assistant to the city administrator. She's going to be basically monitoring social media to see if you have any questions for us. And we did have an opportunity for people to submit questions earlier, and I believe we have some of those. Brittany, do you want to give us some questions?
Yes, Mayor. So I did have some questions submitted prior to the town hall. Are you ready for them? I'll throw them at you. Okay, so
we're just real informal here, so and we are live, by the way. So let's see if we can answer some of these questions for you. And let me just tell you, if we can't answer a question here today because we just don't have the information, we will be more than happy to get back with you, and we can contact you with any answers that we can't answer today. But we'll do our best. So, Brittany, go ahead.
Okay, so the first question that we received was someone would like to know what Hudson Oaks is doing to pursue higher-end restaurants that adjoining cities do not have.
Okay, what's the city of Hudson Oaks doing to attract higher-end restaurants that other cities don't have? I can't speak for other cities. I can tell you, and trust me, if Councilman Tom Fitzpatrick is watching, I don't. This question's not from him, but it might as well be. Tom, I think, has been clamoring for sit-down restaurants in Hudson Oaks for a long time. But there is a process you have to go through, and we can only offer, developers and business folks who own restaurants. We can only offer them, to show them locations and what the city can do. But it's ultimately the private business owner's decision on where to go. But I can tell you this: in Hudson Oaks, like I mentioned earlier, we have hired a professional staff here, and that staff, basically, and Sterling can agree to and attest to this. In the very rigorous process of hiring, we really hone in on economic development and, what kind of strategies can you bring to the city of Hudson Oaks for economic development. And so that professional staff, and I know you would agree, you're a part of it, but that's one of the reasons why we brought you here to Hudson Oaks, is because you are experienced in economic development. And so I will tell you, the other thing that Hudson Oaks has is location. Our location is in the middle of the fourth fastest growing county in the state of Texas, Parker County. You have Fort Worth Highway 20 and Hudson Oaks Lakeshore Drive. They intersect right there. It's the busiest intersection in Parker County, so we do have that going for us. But Sterling, anything to add on economic development?
Yeah, I will say you're right. That's what kind of brought me here too, was professional staff and what they had going on. And actually, if Tom is watching, I'm pretty sure Tom probably asked me that question in an interview process exactly. too. So, but we also streamline our economic development process. So if somebody wants to come into the city and developers are interested, we come in, we lay it down. It's a easy step-by-step process, and to get through, we can push things through a little quicker and get it through P&Z versus someone like a Fort Worth or a larger municipality that the process just takes longer to get through there. So we have that to offer. And then, like you said, the professional staff that we go out there, we go to ICSC to try to get some of those businesses interested in. And now HEB's here is a big draw, so Hudson Oaks name's getting out there a little bit in the development community. And but yeah, I think it's just professional staff streamlining the process, and once we get the word out, then developers are interested in bringing in some of those restaurants.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned ICSC, which is, I believe it's the International Conference of Shopping Centers.
Right.
And, that is something that Hudson Oaks attends every year. Obviously, we couldn't this year because of COVID, but in years past, we've gone to this conference and we have begged to get on people's calendars to meet with them about their businesses and doing development at Hudson Oaks. Over the past year, I would say that we have been contacted by businesses and developers because of where we are and because of our professional staff and just the ease of doing business and building a business in Hudson Oaks. So we've actually been requested more this past year, 2019, I should say, than any year in the past at ICSC. So that is a big change for us, and we're very, very proud of that. So anything else as far as restaurants go? I agree. We would love to have more restaurants in Hudson Oaks. However, during the COVID pandemic, I really think, and I think it has to do with the lack of lending for those types of businesses right now. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's lending. You got to think these businesses are all over the state of Texas and all over the United States, and in some areas are affected more so than others. And a lot of these brick and mortar stores and restaurants are kind of sitting back a little bit and seeing what happens with the economy. And as they see the uptick, I think they'll get more active out in the market and start expanding.
Right. All right. Well, I hope that answered your question. Like I said, we don't know what other cities are doing. We kind of do. We collaborate with other cities, but they have their own strategies. But that's what we're doing here in Hudson Oaks. Brittany, is there another question?
Yeah, so I have a follow-up question that came in during that conversation that is also related to that. And the question posed is, are we, Hudson Oaks, pursuing big sit-down restaurants?
Big sit-down restaurants. We are pursuing any restaurant, and I really shouldn't say that. We have to be very choosy in who we, and I don't want to say give incentives to, but we do have that ability. But we're very selective, and there's a reason behind that, because we want strategic growth that fits what our community wants. But as far as large sit-down restaurants, I really don't know what would be a large sit-down restaurant. Do you?
I assume by large you're talking like a national brand, right? So you're talking like a national retail brand, and I think that goes back to what I said earlier with COVID and the uncertainty of the market. You have a presidential election coming up. They're just not out there expanding currently right now. I think retail is going to look different than it has in the past. I think COVID has kind of put it out there that shopping online is coming more and more so utilized. And honestly, I think it's just kind of once this COVID, the uncertainty of it is realized and that we're back in the market and we're back getting the economy back to where we were, then I think they'll be more actively out there. The national retail brands just aren't expanding right now because of so much uncertainty in the market.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of tough for businesses right now in this environment, but we're on the map. So know that Hudson Oaks is on the map, and we are a desired location, and it will come back. And so we'll be ready. Our staff will be ready. Our council will be ready to have discussions with those types of restaurants, and we encourage them to come to Hudson Oaks. And you win some, you lose some, and we're not too proud to say that. So. But we've won more than we lost, I think, lately. So, any other questions, Brittany?
Yes. So, another question that I have is Hudson Oaks planning any new special events in the upcoming year?
Aha, good question. Let me just cover some of the major events that we do have. You folks probably already know this because you hear and see these fireworks every 4th of July, but we do have Boomin' Fourth every 4th of July. I arguably probably the largest fireworks show in Parker County. We're not in competition with any other cities. We're in cooperation with them, but we've had upwards of 15,000 people in and around Gene Voiles Park for Boomin' Fourth, and so we're very proud of that. And Lisa Flowers and the East Parker County Chamber and the City of Hudson Oaks collaborated years ago to begin doing this annual fireworks show, and it's just exploded. See where I went with that?
That's right.
Let's see, what else in Hudson Oaks? We do have our Coho-Ho, which is our Christmas electric light show and tree. And are there any other plans for Coho-Ho this year? We're still going to have that?
We're still going to have that. If you've driven by the park, you see them starting getting set up for that. So it'll be a little different, but for the most part, it's going to be like it was. So we're excited. We'll still have the tree lighting. We'll still have the vendors out there, and it'll be a fun event.
Yeah, Coho-Ho is really fun, especially for kids. They can come out. There's music. I think, we were going to have Santa Claus there. That's probably still up in the air whether Santa Claus is going to be able to come. But we do have, hot chocolate trucks and food trucks that come out to Coho-Ho. But that's a really neat event that's in Gene Voiles Park. We have our, could I say signature event in Craft and Cork? It's something that's very, very unique to Hudson Oaks. It's our annual craft beer wine festival. We have a lot of restaurants bring their food out there, and it's the toughest ticket to get in Parker County every October. Now, this past October we had, this past Craft and Cork, we obviously had to do that in a little different way because we couldn't all meet in Gene Voiles Park. We actually had different locations. I'll let Sterling touch on where you can get your glasses. You can probably still get some, I'm not sure, but Sterling, tell us where we had Craft and Cork this year.
Yeah, so Craft and Cork was a little different. I think some of the vendors, we weren't able to get a lot of the vendors to come in, so we went with, we had some local support from Boo Ray's restaurant, from HEB, and Shriek's Liquor that sponsored some kind of mini crafting cork events where they had some specials at their store fronts. So you could go into Boo-Rays on a certain day and get a crafting cork glass. So you could still able to get that glass if you're a collector of that glass every year. And then remind you to come back next year. So HEB did the same thing. Pathfinder Brewery had a deal at their place to get that glass. So I fully anticipate next year to be back to normal and be back to where we were on Crafting Cork. But a great event.
Yeah, that crafting cork glass is a collector's item. One year we made the mistake of not putting the actual year on the glass.
I mean, who made that mistake?
Well, we don't want to mention our past city administrator, Patrick Lawler. We love him, but I don't think he made that decision. But we didn't have the year on the glass, and boy, our folks let us hear about that. So we put the year back on the glass, so you can put those, in your china cabinet or whatever, and you can actually have that as a collector's item. Let me mention our Friday night bites. That's every Friday we have food trucks in Gene Voyles Park, and follow our Facebook page, social media to check that out. And what time does that start usually on a Friday night?
It depends on the first one started a little later than the previous one that we just had. But is it, Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong, November 23rd?
The 13th.
November
is the next
13th.
one. Yeah,
November 13th is our
it's
next
a
one
Saturday.
in the park, which
yeah.
it's a great event. It's a way in the environment that we're in with COVID to get out of the house, to get your family out to the park. 4 or 5 food trucks will set up there. There's been different food trucks, and it's one Friday a month that we'll have that. And again, the next one's in November. We just had one. It was a little chilly this last one, but we still had it. And we went to the first one, and I know I was coach a baseball team, and they all came out, and they were able to set up a little baseball field and play in the park. And it's just a way to get out of the house and enjoy the community, enjoy the other people in the community, while still being able to social distance that as you desire or you see fit that you should do. So great event.
Yeah, Friday night bites. So we're hoping that's going to be popular, and so the next one's coming up in November. Tomorrow night, and this would be October 30th, we're going to have the first annual drive-through trunk or treat, I think is what we're calling it, right, Brittany?
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat, okay. I believe city staff is going to be dressed up as the Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that the name of the movie?
You should know, because I hear there's a mayor character.
There unfortunately is a mayor character, and yours truly will be under, I believe, a lampshade of some sort. I actually had to watch this movie to find out what I got myself into. So, yes, your humble mayor will be there passing out candy, along with other people in our city staff that'll be dressed up. It'll be a fun night. Bring your kids, drive through. Unfortunately, due to COVID, this is kind of what we're having to deal with. But we're going to do the best we can with Halloween to show our kids a good time. So that's the drive-through trunk or treat. October 30th, starting at 6 o'clock. I think it goes, 6 to 8, 6 to 7:30?
6 to 8, yeah, 6 to 8. And inspiration will be one way. So you can come up one way, and you drive by all the vendors. There's a lot of vendors out there that have their cars decorated in some theme. So it should be a fun thing for the families.
Yeah, go to our Facebook page. It has a little map there. It shows you exactly how you drive through Gene Voyles Park, and it'll be a fun night for everybody. So I think that's it. Am I missing anything?
No, I will say this. We are working on potentially having a spring event, which will be a new event for the city. So stay tuned for details on that. We're still working through what that looks like. But we are looking at adding another larger event, such as Booming Forth or Crafting Cork, for something into the spring. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we've had the Easter egg hunt in the park, and
we'll continue to have that.
Yep. And we've had the Zonta 5K run, which I have ran and painfully walked through. So, but that's a great event for a great cause. And so, yeah, be sure to look on our Facebook page, our City of Hudson Oaks Facebook page, and our website to keep track of what's going on in Hudson Oaks and all of our events. Brittany, any other questions?
Yes, I have had some questions come in while you started answering them. So someone asked, can you tell me about the new brewery?
The new brewery, I would assume they're asking about Pathfinder Brewery.
I think that's our only brewery.
Well, yeah. So the one here in Hudson Oaks is called Pathfinder Brewery, that is owned by Eric Addison. He's from California. He moved here, and his dream was to own and operate a brewery. And he actually was able to open about 3 weeks ago when the Grove, who sells tacos at that location, came in, and they partnered together to actually open up before the governor allowed bars and breweries to open. So now there's a partnership between Pathfinder Brewery and the Grove. And that brewery is it's growing. It's got several different beers that they're brewing there, and they're coming up with some new ones. I don't want to steal Eric's thunder, so I won't give you any details on the new brews that are coming out. But I would definitely go by Pathfinder Brewery and find out what Eric is brewing.
Yeah, and if you don't know where it's located, right? So the new brewery is back behind the water park. So you can go down between the water park, Splash Kingdom, and Fort Worth Highway 180. So it's a big, great building, great process. I know he's got some beers in some of our other restaurants. Urban Air carries their beer on tap. So it's great, great to see that partnerships between two of our local businesses to make that happen. So.
Yep. So, and Sterling touched on the location. If you're coming eastbound on Fort Worth Highway, right before our Hudson Oaks Monument sign, you take a right by the Shell station, I believe, right? And that's going to be where Eric Addison and Pathfinder Brewery is. If you're coming from the east going west, you're going to want to go right past the, I guess it'd be the Waffle House, and take a left by there's a monument, little monument business there. And so it's going to be right there. It's a little hard to see. I know Eric's going to have some signage there, but that is the newest brewery in Parker County, and it's great, so go check it out. Pathfinder Brewery. Brittany.
All right. I got 2 more questions for you. This one is COVID related, and the question is, are COVID positive numbers provided for Hudson Oaks? If so, what are they?
Okay, so what we do is, as the City of Hudson Oaks, we rely on the State Department of State Health Services to provide the numbers for the COVID, I guess people who have contracted COVID in Hudson Oaks and have recovered from COVID in Hudson Oaks. So that State Department will send that information to Parker County, and then the county will actually distribute those numbers. And from the last I saw, Sterling, I think we maybe had 2 that were active.
Yeah, that's probably, it's been very low in Hudson Oaks as far as active. I think we probably had total, last I saw was about 40 something cases of actual Hudson Oaks. If you go, like the mayor was talking about, to the Parker County website, at the top they have a COVID-19 link, and you can click on that and you can actually see every city. The county has done a great job tracking that. You see overall numbers. You can look at every city. It shows you the total within those cities, positive cases, the total recovered cases, total active cases. So I'd encourage you to go to Parker County's website. At the top, click on COVID-19, and you can see all those numbers broken down.
Yeah, so Pat Dean is the former mayor of Hudson Oaks, and he's the current Parker County judge. His office actually tracks and distributes those numbers, and they've been doing a good job in getting it to us. If there's any delay in numbers, it comes from the state to the county. Once the county gets those numbers, they do distribute them daily. As a matter of fact, I get a daily email with the number of COVID cases in Parker County. But in Hudson Oaks and in Parker County in general, we've been very, very blessed with the limited numbers of COVID cases. We do have deaths in Parker County, which is regrettable. It really, really is, and we feel for every family that's been affected by COVID. But we've been blessed in Hudson Oaks to have very, very low numbers.
And they had a follow-up to that. It was, if someone gets tested in Fort Worth, but they live in Hudson Oaks, does that become a Hudson Oaks number?
That, as a matter of fact, that does become a Hudson Oaks number. That wasn't always the case, and so sometimes when you see floods of numbers coming in and it looks like there's an inundation of numbers, what that is DSHS is actually fixing things. And so what they're doing is, so if you get tested in Fort Worth but you actually live in Hudson Oaks, we will eventually get that number added to the Hudson Oaks numbers. And actually, what I'd like to do is. Well, Brittany, are there any other questions that Sterling can answer? Because I know our Chief Baldwin would probably know more about the process than Sterling or I about COVID numbers. But are there any questions for Sterling? And then we can bring Chief Baldwin back to answer more questions about COVID.
Yes, I have two more questions that I think are for Sterling and before that. So someone posed a question that is, they're asking for a status on the Oki project and the previously proposed development south of I-20.
Okay, so the Oki project, it was a project that began at City Council just several years ago. And the city actually did some infrastructure in that area to prepare for development. And Sterling, maybe you can give us an update on where the Oki project is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Oki project's actually, we're in some pretty good conversations with a potential development that could spring that into fruition for what it is. Like you said, the infrastructure is there. It's just a matter of getting the investments from the investors in there. I think what's going to happen on that project is probably from Midway, we'll start to develop around the roundabout there, and then the infill of what that project will look like. So it's envisioned as some retail spaces around there. The developer, there's only about 3 or 4 property owners within that Oki corridor. So I think once that project starts to get it off the ground on the, I guess what would be the west side of Oki, we'll start to infill back and come to that.
Yeah, and what you're seeing around Oki and HEB is more of a walkable type area. And there's some other development that's going on in and around the HEB area. A lot of things that are in the preliminary phases that we really can't discuss because that's something that the developers want to keep kind of secret. But there are some exciting opportunities that are coming in and around that HEB area and Oki corridor, and so be looking for some really neat development coming in there. But Oki is kind of the center of that. It's going to be a walkable, family-friendly area where we're going to have shops and restaurants and sidewalk cafes and things. But like I said earlier, it takes time. The city, we can do our part, but then business owners have to make sure that they remain financially solvent, and they have to make decisions that's best for their business. And so, me as a mayor, I have to be very, very patient, which is hard when it comes to economic development. But I think it should be done now. But I've learned over the years that it's about as fast as molasses in January sometimes. So, but Oki will be a beautiful addition to Hudson Oaks. There's several things that are in the works. So
and the city's done their part, right? The
Exactly.
streets are in place, the water and sewer lines are there, so it is ready for development now. It's just getting that development to come in.
yeah, there's been a commitment to the Oki corridor, and so that will be developed. Absolutely. Any other questions, Brittany?
The final question that we have is, when is the new trail going in?
How did I know that question was going to come up? So this trail system, and I'll just address trails and parks, because we would consider a trail kind of part of a park system. So we received a grant from the state on that trail. And it's going to take some time to do some right of way and improvement, but we do have a plan of where we'd like to see that trail. Sterling, you want to touch on where we are in the process?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, it is a grant project. So with that being 80% of the project, we funded off of grant money, and then 20% locally. Anytime you're dealing with grant money, TxDOT is in charge of the project, and sometimes it takes a little time. But we are working through the project and working on design. That will be about a $2.1 million trail system, which will connect basically City Hall and Gene Boyles Park down to Inspiration to Oak Ridge, turn north, and go up to ultimately connecting to Mary Martin Elementary up there. And then Mary Martin has committed to moving some of their sidewalks to tie into that, and then we'll connect to Weatherford's trail system, planned trail system up on the north side. So it'll be a great project. That will be a multimodal trail, meaning that it'll be a wide trail, so you can walk on that trail, you can bike on that trail, whatever you see, whatever your pleasure is there. I'm just looking at preliminary, we're doing preliminary work. It's probably going to start in 2021. We're in the design phase, and then probably construction's in the early 2022. program and then, or 2022 year, and then probably you're actually gonna be able to walk on it or bike on it in 2023. And I can tell you from experience, I came here from Westford Village. We did the same project. We went to the TAP grant project it started actually before I became city administrator there, and they're finishing it up now. So it just takes time. Anytime you're dealing with TxDOT and state funds, and there's a lot of accountability with that and a lot of checks and balances on that you got to go through. So we are actively working on that. The grant is there, the funding is there. It's just a matter of going through those process. And again, it'll probably be 2023 before you're stepping foot on that and able to walk from Gene Willis Park to Mary Martin Elementary School and ultimately Weatherford's Trail. And it's just a small portion of it too, right? I mean, there's some plans. The city looked at a plan that will connect the south side to that. So once we get this project done, then we'll start working on those plans as well.
Yeah, and before we move to the south side, which I believe was a question that someone asked, I did have breakfast with Mayor Doyle Moss of Willow Park, and he wants to connect to that trail system to be able to get into Willow Park as well. So there is a regional cooperation going here between Weatherford, Hudson Oaks, and Willow Park to actually see that trail system comes to fruition. So, but like I said, it takes time. We do have the funding. Now we're just in the process of getting it put on the ground. And pretty soon, within the next few years, you'll be able to bike and run between Weatherford and hopefully Willow Park through Hudson Oaks. So anything else on the trail system? I think we covered that. Parks. We have a beautiful park in Gene Voiles Park. And you can't ask for anything more. Our facilities guys, they really do a great job in taking care of Gene Voiles Park, and it's a special place for us. It's kind of the heart of the city, wouldn't you say, Sterling?
I do, and I think that's what makes the fire station coming in there even more so, because that really does become the heart of the city.
Yeah, so it's going to be really neat to have the fire station right across from Gene Voiles Park and City Hall. And the council is very aware of our comprehensive plan that was done years ago. We're actually going to, from what I understand, we'll get back into our comprehensive plan next year. And I can tell you the top 3 things in that comprehensive plan are going to be no sales tax, right?
That's number 1.
Concern about traffic, and parks. So we don't even need to do it now. I've already done it. The comp plan is done. But no, seriously, so we know that everybody out there that lives in Hudson Oaks would like to have more parks, and we've heard you. And so the trail system is just one way we're going to try to improve that. And there's other things we're looking at, pocket parks and things like that. But it does take money to take care of parks. And so we do have to be responsible with the sales tax dollars that we bring in. And so, but just know that your council is aware of that, and we're working to try to find more places where you can have fun with your family and be outside and have more recreation opportunities. So let me move on to the development on the south side. So we do have a developer that owns property on the south side of I-20 here in Hudson Oaks. And there's been a lot of ideas tossed around about what that was going to look like. Obviously, COVID has put some, kind of some monkey wrenches in that. But can you go into a little bit about what the idea is for the south side of 20? Because in our last comprehensive plan, it was a town center, which I don't believe is the case anymore.
Correct. So I actually had a meeting with that developer the other day, and that developer is the same developer that's doing Creekside apartments at this moment. So he's been focused on that, and then he's turning his attention to the south side. He's working with some planners into that to master plan that. I don't think the plan now is to have a town center per se in that, but what you'll see is a little bit of commercial retail along the I-20 corridor, and then some residential back behind that. So I would encourage, that could bring some parks into play too, right? Some green space into that. But I would encourage you, as the mayor was saying, we're going through our comprehensive plan. That will be a part of that comprehensive plan to what does the community want to see there. Things have changed probably since you guys have talked about it. HEB's been here for a year. So the community has evolved a little bit, and maybe we need to evolve on that as well. So I'll just encourage you as we go going through next year into the comprehensive plan to be involved in those. We'll have some public comments. We'll have some town halls on that. We'll have some strategies in there to get the whole public in so that Hudson Oaks can develop the way that Hudson Oaks wants to develop.
Yeah, that's right. And so in our strategic plan that council had come up with, one of the main priorities was actually increasing communication with our citizens. And, I think we do a very, very good job, but we can always do better. That's part of the reason why we're doing this virtual town hall. But the comprehensive plan that we're going to be doing next year is a perfect way for you to communicate with your city council to let us know, how do you want the city of Hudson Oaks to grow? What do you want? What do you not want? What concerns you? What excites you? That's an opportunity for you as a citizen or a business owner of Hudson Oaks to come to City Hall, meet with your council members, and actually get down to business in helping us make Hudson Oaks the city that you want it to be. So in the spirit of increasing communication, we're doing this town hall. We're having our comprehensive plan next year. You can go on our website, hudsonoaks.com. My phone number is on there. My email is on there. If you ever need anything, you can always email or call me. Our city staff are very open to speaking with you about any concerns that you have regarding the city of Hudson Oaks. So, Brittany, are there any other questions from viewers tonight?
Yes, there was just a last one. It said, would this town hall be recorded so that people who missed it can catch up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this town hall is live right now. However, we will be putting this on, are we going to do it on our website or on Facebook? How are we able to put this out after we've
all of the
completed it? Okay.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, so that's perfect. So social media.
Yeah. So we'll likely put it on our website and then put a link on Facebook that we did this, and you can go back and take a look at it from a website.
Right. Okay, perfect. So thank you, Brittany. If there's no other questions for Sterling, I'm going to just give you an opportunity to speak with our police chief, Mike Baldwin, about any other COVID questions. And really what I'd like for Chief Baldwin to do is just explain some things about how cases are reported. I know our chief was on the task force here in Parker County that dealt with COVID, along with our emergency management coordinator, Sean Hughes, and quite a few other folks. So Chief Baldwin, can you just give our folks a rundown of how cases are reported and how things are going in Parker County with the response and testing maybe also?
All right, so let me give you the latest numbers. I just pulled them up. As of today, Hudson Oaks had 57 cases. 2 of those are still active. 3 went off of the active list today, in fact. The county's had 2,500 total cases. Of those, there's actually been 50 deaths. There are 646 pending results. So everything's now controlled through, we call it DISHES, but it's the Department of State Health and Human Services. And they are taking the reports from the testing sites, which include your urgent care centers, hospitals, and then there has been in the past the drive-through testing. You give them your address, and it does take time to differentiate. If you drive through TCU, in the beginning it's going to count in Tarrant County. Later it will be, the numbers will change. And we saw that early on in the task force, how we had no cases, and then we had 2,000 cases overnight because of the reporting. So basically, we know that if you are symptomatic, and that was the early testing requirement, is you had to be symptomatic, you would go take this test. Early on, we did not have testing in private doctor's office and so on. That has changed over time. But there was not that facility set up, and there will always be a concern how many cases were not reported because of going to places that did not get captured. Right. So the only thing you get captured now are official sites, whether it's through again, hospitals, testing centers, urgent care, those type of things that are reporting it to DISHES. And that's what we're seeing. We're actually, as you said earlier, Mayor, we're very blessed when you figure that and I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm going to spitball 90% of Hudson Oaks residents work in Fort Worth or Tarrant County or Dallas County. And, so the possibility of our numbers being a lot higher were there. And we have been very blessed with our numbers, and we've had no deaths.
Yeah. We have been very blessed, so thank you, Chief, for that update. And like I said, Chief Baldwin was on the task force here in Parker County right from the beginning. Your government here in Parker County, whether it be the Parker County Commissioner's Court, the Judge's Office, every level of government from the county all the way down to your city councils, have taken this COVID pandemic very seriously. And we encourage people to do what's best for their families and stay safe. So, thank you to Mike Baldwin for his participation on that task force. And they've just done a fabulous job of keeping the citizens of Parker County safe. So, on that note, I will close out today's virtual town hall. I want to thank you so much on behalf of City Administrator Sterling Nairn, Police Chief Mike Baldwin, Assistant to the City Administrator Brittany Huff, our City Council and City staff. Thank you so much for joining us. Never forget that we work for you, and we're always here to make your quality of life better and to keep you safe. So if we can do anything to do that or improve on that, please let us know. Have a good evening.